Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in today. You're with Life Lessons podcast with Now Is Your Time, Donna and Cheryl. I'm Donna.
Hi.
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 So today we've got a gorgeous young lady, a friend of the Now Is Your Time family, by the name of RENEE. Now, Sierra is a friend of ours because we actually met her through some of the incredible female entrepreneur groups that we are in, and she's based all the way out in California. And what you're going to hear about is an amazing story of somebody who has achieved so much in already such a short time, and it hasn't been easy. So you're going to hear about real resilience, grit and determination, what that means. So we're going to introduce Sierra now. Hi.
Hello. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
An absolute pleasure. We're so excited for you to be here today and hear about your story. So I know we know a little bit about you, but obviously the guys who are tuning in today won't know anything. So we got clean slates here to talk to. And we're just intrigued, though, first of all, you're in California and we want to know, is it always gorgeous and sunny? Because it always looks it on the films.
For the most part, yeah, it is. For the most part.
So it's like, the 2nd of October today, and it's freezing cold in the UK and very, very, very windy. We nearly got blown away going to a meeting before. So I'm seeing you sat in, like, you know, bathed in sunlight there. You look like you're in a halo of sunshine. It's dark here already. So
I wish it was like that for us. It's not, which is unfortunate.
Oh, well, listen, we're dying to get stuck into your life lessons and stories. So just tell us a little bit just about you as well, just so the guys who are tuning in today just understand a little bit about how you grew up, what that was like.
Okay, so I'm 19. I graduated high school last year. So, yeah.
You could daughter. You're younger than Charles' daughter.
Yeah, so I turned 20 in March, and I am from a rough little area in LA called Watts. It's like right next door to a city called Compton. I'm not sure if any of them are, any of our listeners are familiar with Los Angeles, but that's where I'm from. And I grew up in housing projects, so it's just kind of like this like low income type of situation, and very tough environment, lots of violence, lots of crazy stuff going on. So I grew up in a very, very like fast and dangerous neighborhood, if you will.
What's that like to see, you know, as a child, seeing like violence around you? Like what do you think when you're little and you see that?
Well, I mean, for me, I had always been not very street smart, but just kind of aware of how like people worked and things of that nature. So I'm just like, you know, there in my head, I would be trying to reason like, why is this stuff happening? And of course, you know, when you're young, your parents don't want to explain to you about what's going on. They don't want to expose you to that kind of stuff, but definitely seeing it was very rattling. So to say the least.
I can't imagine a little brain deals with that. It's so harsh.
It was pretty harsh. So for the most of my life I had been in Watts, and then I ended up relocating to Redlands, California, where I graduated high school, which was, you know, a lot more calm area for me. But I've dealt with, I think, everything you can imagine, there with a few exceptions. I've dealt with homelessness. I've dealt with, you know, just not having enough or going without food and things of that nature. Like a lot of that stuff is a part of, I think, what made me so tenacious in entrepreneurship. Just because I knew, like I always knew I was an entrepreneur, like I knew because I was a great student in school and I loved it. I loved school, but at the same time, I was very much I was independent. I was not in tune with authority and things of that nature. And I think you hear that from a lot of entrepreneurs. Like I didn't like being told what to do. I was just a student who was like, you know what, you gave me the work, I'll do the work, and that's it. Like type of thing.
Leave me alone.
Leave me alone. I'm just gonna do what I need to do, and that was always me. And so I kind of knew. I'm like, okay, I want to have my own business. I don't want to have to go to work, but I mean, I always knew that it took money to make money. And so from dealing with homelessness and different things like that, different adversities like that, kind of just made me want to be stable, I guess you would say. And so I got my first job. I worked at a Starbucks, and I kind of just took that money and threw it into my first business, which was a clothing brand. And from there, like, my love of entrepreneurship just grew. So
that's amazing.
yeah.
And because I think from what you're saying is a lot of the need to be stable is probably coming from the fact that you had homelessness, you know, trying to find money for food and things. So just talk to us, and for the people who are listening, a little bit around when you were in that state of homelessness. Like, what was that like for you? What did that feel like? How did that impact you?
Yeah, it was pretty scary. It was a very scary time. Even just like, I had situations where, like, my mom and I have younger sisters, by the way. And so it was just like me and my mom and I, like, we were going through this whole situation. And even times where we didn't have lights on and we had to deal with that kind of stuff. It was a bit embarrassing, just because I knew that was because, like, we didn't have the resources that we needed at the time. And it was just very scary, because I felt that I had to be strong for everyone and to just kind of power through it. That's just what it was. It was just a situation, and I think that kind of helped me build my lack of complaint, like, mentality now. Like, I'm very grateful and very content, but in that moment, it was just a scary time, but I knew that it was something that was going to make me stronger in the end, even though it was happening, you know.
So you actually knew that at the time you were almost taking this as not a message, but this is something, rather than giving up and feeling hopeless and thinking, you know, life's not going to get any better. You actually were thinking, I know that I'm going to get through this, and this is going to make me a stronger person.
Yeah. It was just about, like, not giving up. Like, I had to be an example. I have younger siblings, so it was just about just getting through it. Even though it was happening to me, I really just kind of did a whole 360 and kind of interpreted it as happening for me instead. And yeah.
Incredible. It's happening for me, not to me.
Yeah.
But I have the clarity. I mean, how old were you when this was going on, Sierra?
I was pretty young. It happened a few times, actually. So, I mean, the first time I can remember it being very young, and just growing up with even, you know, not to get too personal, but just like an unstable, like, parental situation as well, because, you know, my mom didn't have the support that she needed either. And that translated into what was going on in our lives as children. But definitely it was just kind of a situation where, like, I was young and I didn't necessarily know what was going on. Like, I had an idea, but I was just like, you know what, like, mommy is gonna fix it, like, it's happening, whatever. And then it happened again when I was a little bit older, and this time I was a little embarrassed, like I said, because I was, like, in high school. And the crazy thing of
then, aren't you? It's more about what other people think than the fact that it's happening almost.
Yeah, and it was really crazy because I was, like, the shelter that we were staying in, I was, like, a few blocks from my high school.
Okay.
So it was crazy, and it happened, and I was embarrassed, but I was also just trying to think of solutions at the same time and kind of trying to process it. So yeah, that was my mentality on that whole situation. Yeah,
that's amazing. And what's the relationship with your mum like as well? Like, how was that? How do you think that's?
It's really hard. It's a really hard situation to navigate. So yeah,
you've been through a lot together, right?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, it's just been a lot. It's been a lot, and so we're close, and I feel like I can confide in her about anything. And I think also from watching her be so strong, that translated over to me and helped me be strong as well. So
yeah, you definitely get it from somewhere.
And what do you think of you then? So you've got your sisters and you want to be a role model for them. What do they think of their fabulous big sister now?
Man, my sister, she turns 13 in December. One of my youngest sisters, I have actually 4 sisters.
Right? Wow.
It's ridiculous. And so my 13-year-old sister, she's second oldest, and she's just so proud. She's always telling people like, my sister is an entrepreneur, and she runs her own. It makes me cry every time she'll. Yeah.
You've earned that. Isn't that gorgeous though, that she's grown up with a very different, because I'd imagine they were younger, they probably don't have the same memories of it either as you do.
Yeah.
Because you will have tried to be big sister and shelter them from as much of the reality as you could.
Yeah. So I mean, they're in a great place, and they're really, really proud of me, especially my second oldest sister. She's turning into me, I think. So it's crazy.
Things to happen.
Absolutely.
What was it like, Sierra, when you were, so you talked about the embarrassment at school, but you're at school, you're a good student, you've done well at school, but how do you balance all of that stress and everything that's going on at home with actually getting your work done, studying, learning? Like, how was that? How did you manage that?
I actually, when I was in high school, I was very mean. And I think I know why, because I was just going through such a hard time. Like, I was dealing with my mom, and my mom was also like sick. She was battling like bipolar disorder and things like that. And that was something that stressed me out in school. And I guess relationship problems and things like that. So it was just I was very mean. I used that as a coping mechanism, and I'm not afraid to talk about that either, just because it took self-awareness to realize that's what that was. So I was like very mean to my peers, like when I first started out, and I didn't want anyone to talk to me. I was very like sheltered, and I was in my bubble, my shell. And then I just kind of took it and channeled it into something better. You know, I was just like, I don't want to be this person. I just kind of woke up and decided, like, just because I went through all of this, it doesn't give me permission to treat people this way. And so it just it made me into a better person. So as far as schoolwork went, like, I was always on top of that, and I never like let my grades slip. I'd always been an honors student, always, you know, even took extra like college courses like in my free time when I could. And like, that's just the kind of student I was. And so I can recall like a point where I was just like not interested in school or anything, but at the same time, I knew that this is something that I have to keep on top of, because I have to be, like I said, a role model for my sisters. But yeah, I was a meanie.
Well,
But you can relate to that a little bit though, can't you, in terms of that growing up feeling like, do you know what? It manifested in you in a very similar way, didn't it?
Because when I from where we live, I'm adopted, so and I'm mixed race. So my parents and the family were white. So where I grew up, well, I think I was only a white person. I was the only person who wasn't white in my school. That was like in where we lived, that it wasn't very multi kind of cultural. So I felt that need of not knowing my identity. I came in from school one day when I was very young, I can't remember, and I'd covered myself in white chalk. And this was when I was in, I don't know if you'd call it kindergarten. I was literally like 3 or 4, something like that. So there must have been something that I looked different to everyone else. So then I felt the need to gravitate towards the cool crowds, or trying to fit in with the cool people, so that nobody would then kind of discriminate against us, so I wouldn't have to deal with any prejudice. So
it was almost like it's almost like an aggression, isn't it? To kind of like, don't mess with me or else, to keep people at arm's length, so that they don't get too close and find out that actually there's stuff going on. And it's
but I was not aware of that
No,
until I was in my late. Well, no, I'm a self-aware person, but I wasn't aware of all that stuff till I was in my 30s. You're 19.
And you've realised.
Yeah.
You've already kind of worked all of that out, which is absolutely amazing.
Because it could have gone.
Thank you.
Right? Like you could have just gone with the flow and like became what you're raging against, and you didn't. You stepped out and said, and there's something in you that when we're speaking to you, it's that determination in your eyes of like, that was never going to be my life. Like, that was not going to be my life.
Because you want a role model to your sisters, but I'm just curious, like your why. What is your why? You know, the why for what you're doing, for the entrepreneurship. Like, what is that driver that keeps you driven to overcome all of that?
I like how it feels to impact other people. I think that that's something that I'm driven by. Just like I know that like at first, like when I first came in, I'm like, okay, like I know that entrepreneurship is my passion, and I can make a lot of money doing this. And that was for a while, like, okay, this is the reason why I'm doing this. And then I started getting, like, every day I wake up, I get a nice message from someone, or like someone telling me that I impacted their lives. And that in itself is like currency for me. Like the money's great, but the impact is so much better. And so I think that's the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'm just seeing so many people who are, you know, taking advantage of like the time that we live in, where you can capitalize off of your abilities, like via the internet. And so I just want to be an authentic like voice and just authentically serve these people who are coming to me with their issues and with their, you know, social media things going on, and not take advantage. Like I just like the fact that I can change someone's life by something that, because I grew up on the internet, like something that's innate to me. And so it's innate to me, but it's not to them. And so it's kind of like the fact that I can change someone's life with like my knowledge is like heck of a lot better than a paycheck to me.
Which I think how we resonate with each other, because it's very similar to now well, like time-wise, about making a difference to people's lives, changing people's lives. It's for some people who are listening, but literally that's one small thing can change someone's life, as you know yourself.
But again, to grow up with that social conscience and that desire to be present and serve in people's lives at your age. Usually you get, and we're in our 40s and we're like, God, we really want to pay forward, we want to help people, and it's kind of always been there. But you within your business, you're already acting on that. You've already set up forums to support women who are trying to set up their business, who need help with social media, who need help with branding. And like you were always one of the first people there with a hand up to say, I can help you. And not in a way that always has that agenda of, and it's going to cost you after the first time we speak, and the conversation is sometimes take a breath, let other people step in sometimes, isn't it? And not, don't give everything away, just like let it happen organically sometimes, but you're always so keen to help and jump in, right?
That's my thing.
It is your thing, and you're really good at it.
Thank you.
Like we're in our 40s when we've set this up, and a lot of things that have held us back and might be holding people back who are listening in is the fear. It's those limiting beliefs that we put in place of ourselves to think we can't do this, it's not the right time. You don't seem to have those limiting beliefs, and it's refreshing. You don't have to wait till you're in your 30s and 40s and 50s to have these epiphanies to kind of overcome these fears. You have kind of, from what you've been through, you could have kind of thought, well, that's never going to happen to me, and I won't be able to make something of myself because of where I've come from. That doesn't even come into play where you're concerned. You kind of like, you don't seem to have limiting beliefs that I can see anyway.
Or do you? How does it come out in you?
I mean, I had them, and like I said, like it took a lot of self-awareness. Like I had limiting beliefs around money because like we lacked that. I dealt with like bullying in school, which is partially why I was such a meanie. And that was something. And then of course like my mother's illness and things like that just kind of really took a toll on me. And it just took working through them, honestly, just really sitting down and getting real with myself and realizing that the challenges that I faced were actually gifts to me, at least. Like they were gifts to me, because it took like me getting thrown into like all this like chaos very early, and it took me to go through that to kind of get to know myself. And so it was just a lot of like digging deep and exploring like who I am and how I feel about certain things, and what beliefs are actually mine and what came from like my environment and things like that. So it did take work. But I never, my mom never allowed me to feel like I couldn't do anything. You know what I mean? I had teachers called, you know, it was just a lot of, people expressed a lot of belief in me, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
And that also helped me along. But definitely, like, I just always felt like I could touch the moon if I want to. And my mom would just be like, yeah, you can. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
I love that, because that was one of the things I wanted to ask you when we spoke today. So, like for me, for example, I'm from a background where we grew up, you know, in kind of rented housing, and people didn't go to university and things like that. And it was quite hand to mouth, really. Kind of, you know, some weeks were quite scary, and I knew that there was money being borrowed and, you know, things being shuffled, and sometimes being borrowed from relatives. And like, I grew up with that, and I had like a really strong memory of, and I've talked to Cheryl about this before. Like, I remember one day, Mum was cooking dinner for Dad coming home, like our tea time meal. And I remember, like, a few days in a row, she was saying, I've ate mine. And that's when I realised she hasn't ate hers. There just literally isn't enough to feed the four of us.
Yeah.
It's that kind of, oh my God. And I think we're in those days again now, with food banks becoming common, you know, and they're not common to people who aren't working. They're common to people who are working. You know, we see nurses and police officers having to go to food banks to get assistance with food, because life is just getting more and more expensive. And there's been such a stigma about it, about which shops you would go to, and that's kind of all being blown up now. People are becoming more and more open about it. And but my outcome of that was, I was really, like, money scarcity was a big belief that I had to overcome as a grown-up kind of thing. I bought my first house when I was 23, and I cried myself to sleep because I thought I would lose it, because my parents didn't own their home, they rented. So how did you, again, it's took me, I'm like in my mid-40s and it's still ongoing work. It's something I'm very conscious that I have to work on. So how did you overcome that?
I think it is, in a sense, still ongoing, but definitely I know that, like, when it comes to money scarcity, I just, in my head, I kind of just implanted the idea that, I mean, it's this or something better. So, I mean, if this doesn't happen it's not happening to me, it's happening for me, like I said before. And so I'm just like, you know what? If this is going a certain way, then, I mean, it's meant to be that way. And it has to work out, like it always has. So it's going to continue to, you know what I mean? And I think that's how I got over it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got, so your mindset and the way you think is of a very positive nature, naturally.
Yeah.
And then it sounds, if you catch yourself thinking in a negative way, or you have some kind of self-limiting beliefs, you take a step back, reflect, and then you're replacing that thought with a positive thought, which is a lot of work we do with people in terms of, call it rewiring. It's almost like rewiring your thoughts. Yeah.
But I love that you think, well, it all always works out, because it always has.
Yeah.
Where somebody who really struggles to think like you do will go, well, it might not work out because look what's happened in the past.
Yeah.
Problems. You know, it's like what you choose to focus on. You choose your state very consciously, and you choose to think of the positive. And I don't know if you're even aware that you do it to that level, but clearly that's something that is a massive strength. You know, it's not something you probably had to work on that when you were little, and now it's just subconsciously such a really strong trait for you. It's incredible.
Yeah.
No,
go ahead.
No, go on. Sorry, Sierra.
Oh no, I was just saying, like, I spent a lot of time like studying philosophy as well, and I think that's something that kind of fueled me. I was young, I was in high school, and that was something that I was just very, very interested in, and started like picking up like law of attraction and things like that. And I'm just like, okay, I can't be this negative person. And like I said, I just did a whole 360 and stopped being a meanie.
Yeah, and now you're using all your powers for good. So tell us what's next for you. Tell us a little bit about your business, where you are, what you're excited for in the next year.
So I do a lot of business consulting. So that means branding and marketing. Those are my two primary industries that I consult in. And then I am also running a clothing brand, and I'm doing mindset and success coaching as well. And that is one of my favorite things to do, because I mean, like we're talking here today, I've been through so much, and I understand the role that mindset plays in your success and things like that. So that is why I'm coaching in those areas. I've walked the walk. And then as far as marketing, it's just it's the love of my life, I think. Just on digital marketing itself is just such a beautiful thing. What's next for me? I want to scale my my media agency. So Sierra RENEE Media is the umbrella that I'm consulting under. And I eventually, I want to scale. Like, I want to have the office, I want to have the employees, and I just want to kind of blanket this mission over everyone, and just consult with integrity,
I love that. Consult with integrity.
I just love the ring. The Sierra RENEE Media just sounds
so posh. You've got a great name. It lends itself well, doesn't
RENEE.
it?
Good. Yes.
I can see you in
Thanks,
your
guys.
fancy office, all your fancy stuff.
Yeah.
One day,
Yeah.
One day I might be able to afford to come over and visit you.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
all the lessons in your life, of all the experiences you've had, if you were talking to my little boy and kind of instilling one thing in him as your life lesson, tell me what you would tell.
No matter what you go through, like despite adversity, I think anything is possible with like determination and grit.
Well, you've certainly got that in.
Yeah.
Literally bucket loads. And we've got no doubt. We're really excited. We're like the UK mamas over here, aren't we? So we're really excited to see what you achieve, and we can just know that you're going to go so far and with integrity, because a lot of people can go far on the back of somebody else's glory, but you're going to do it all on your own and in the way that you want to. So we really honour you for that, and we applaud you, and it's just really inspirational. So thank you for sharing that with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me.
It's our pleasure. Thanks, Sierra. Speak soon.
Bye, guys.